Welcome to Brookdale Community College's Interior Design program. This is our main studio, and today I'd like to introduce you to INTD 152, Drafting and Graphic Presentation for Interior Design. I'm Celeste Chericello, and I'm the Design Department Chair and the Coordinator for the Interior Design program. I'm going to be your instructor for INTD 152, Drafting and Graphic Presentation for Interior Design. I'd like to show you how to access the syllabus for our course. And I'd like you to know that the syllabus is a guide, so it lets you know what's expected of you in your courses. To access it on the Brookdale website, you can go to Search for Classes and then put information in about your course. Our particular course is for Fall 2020 15 week. The subject is Interior Design and the code is INTD. You can just click Submit and all the courses for Interior Design will come up, and then you'll be able to find ours, the INTD 152. You click on that and you'll be able to see View Syllabus. Click on View Syllabus and you'll see it. And it's a few pages long, and what we'll be going over are the required textbook and materials. There are two required textbooks for our course. The first is Architectural Drafting for Interior Designers by Lydia Sloan Klein. The second textbook is Sketching Interiors at the Speed of Thought by Jim Dawkins and Jill Pable. The architectural drafting text will be used for the first half of the semester, and the sketching interiors will be for the learning of the 1 and 2 point perspective and how to sketch. I recommend getting both textbooks as soon as possible so you will have the required books to use. The materials are listed in the syllabus, and I'd like to go through all the materials with you now. The first item is an architectural scale. And the important thing about the architectural scale is to make sure when you're purchasing it that it says architect right on the scale. If you get an engineer scale, it won't work for us and you'll have to take it back. The other nice thing about this scale is it's color coded. You see we have red, we have green, and we have white. The nice thing about this scale is it helps you to be able to identify the different scales. There are 16 different scales on here, so the color coding makes it easier to identify. But the most important thing is to make sure that it's an architect's scale. The next item to get is a packet of graph paper with 4 squares per inch. Graph paper is a great way to do sketching, to just get some ideas down. So you want to have your own packet of graph paper. The next thing you're going to need are lead holders. These are lead holders, and they hold different leads. Some students prefer to get 2 different lead holders so that you can tape which lead is on which lead holder, or you can just get one and just make sure that you know which lead you're using. And the way to load it is simply by pressing down on this button. The clamps will open and you're able to slide the graphite into the lead holder. There are different leads that you're going to need, and they come in different packets. They can be in a tube, they can be in these slide cases, but the most important thing is that you know which lead you're using. This says 4H, this one happens to be 2H, and something to take note is sometimes they actually have the lead written on the graphite itself. Sometimes they don't. So you have to pay attention to that because you will be needing 3 different types of lead: 4H, 2H, and HB. I'll explain later what each lead is for, but you will need the 3 different leads. And it's fine if you buy it in a tube form, it's fine if you buy it in the case form. The case will be more expensive because there are more leads in here, or graphite, it's not actually lead. But we will need them and we'll be using them interchangeably with the graphite holders. You will need a lead sharpener. This is a lead sharpener and there are different holes in here. The reason for the different holes is one gives you a very pointed tip, another gives you a blunt. This one is the pointed, and there's actually a little triangle on there. And you press the lead holder into the lead sharpener, you press the button, and that will give you the exact amount of lead that you will need to sharpen your pencil. And you can actually hear it. It takes a little while to just get the feel of this. The thing that you have to remember is you don't want to force it. If you force it, what will happen is you'll break your lead that's in here. So you just have to be careful and you have to get used to that. There are different manufacturers. This one happens to be Alvin, but the main thing is that it has the 2 holes. It has a little cotton piece in there. You can, after you sharpen, you can dip your lead in there and it gets the excess graphite off your pencil. The next item are erasers. And you really have to get what is comfortable for you, but they come in a few different forms. The most important thing is that they are white erasers. If you buy a pink eraser, when you use it on the paper that we use, it will turn the paper pink. So it's best to have the white erasers, and they come in different ways. You can do it where it's actually almost like a pencil. Okay, and it retracts and you can allow the amount that you need to come out. You can do it as a, just a bar, which works fine too. This gets a little bit smaller areas. And then the other thing you can do is this is an auto eraser. And if you prefer that, that's absolutely fine. But I find the pencil one to be the best. What works with our erasers is our erasing shield, and this is a really, really great tool. Just to show you, if I make some lines on here, the erasing shield will allow me to just show the area that I want to erase. So it allows us to erase without erasing important lines that we still need. And you're going to find that this is a great tool in a number of different areas, whether it's for manual drafting or for sketching. You also need triangles. And the triangles that you need 2 different types. You need a 45-degree triangle. This is a 45-degree triangle, and this is a 30-60 triangle. We need these 2, or this is an adjustable triangle. If you get an adjustable triangle, you can change it to whatever angle you need, but you will only need 1 then. But it's usually more expensive, and the 2 triangles will be absolutely fine. We'll also be needing tracing paper. And the tracing paper is great to get preliminary design ideas down without using the more expensive paper. You will be using tracing paper throughout your career at Brookdale in the interior design program. It doesn't really matter whether you get the white or the yellow trace. That's really a personal preference. The size also doesn't matter. The 12-inch is fine. The larger just makes it a little bit easier for you sometimes, but either is absolutely fine. One thing you'll need to tape down your paper will be either drafting dots or drafting tape, or I find painter's tape works really, really well, and that's this blue tape. The main thing you want to remember is not to get masking tape. Masking tape is just way too strong and it will rip your paper and it will become a nightmare for you. This works nicely because it doesn't stick so heartily that it will leave a residue on the drafting table or it will tear your paper. You'll also need a drafting brush. When you erase, there's a residue, and you don't want to take your hand and brush across your paper because of the oils in your hand. So you take your drafting brush and you'll be able to use the drafting brush to get rid of erasure marks. There are different templates that you're going to use, and one set of templates that we found were very nice and affordable are these Mr. Pen templates, and they come in a pack of 3. I believe they're about $9.99, and you'll get a furniture template, you'll get a plumbing template, and you'll get more furniture and some circles and squares. I find getting the larger circle template is also very, very helpful. But these are the templates come in all different shapes and sizes, but these are the best. You'll also just need to make sure that they are 1/4-inch scale templates. Now for all the materials that we have, there are 2 things that will help you. The drafting tube keeps your paper nice and clean. If it's raining and you're traveling, keeping your paper rolled will keep it dry, keep it clean, and one thing you can't do is put a rubber band around your paper. You never want to roll your paper and put a rubber band around it because it's going to crease it. You do not want to fold your paper because again, you'll have creases. The tube will keep it so that it will preserve your papers. And then a drafting bag. This is optional. You really just need something to put all these materials in. And this drafting bag is nice because it also has something that can come out and you can use it on the table. But you don't have to have this particular drafting bag. You can have an art box. You could have whatever works for you to just bring all these materials to class every week. That is definitely necessary. And those are the materials that we'll need for INTD 152. When we're working in our studio, you'll be having the drafting table, which has a parallel bar, and our portable drafting lamp that gives you different color temperatures and also different levels of light depending on your needs, and also a comfortable drafting chair. Now, we have our labs, which you're welcome to come to do work, but if you are not able to get to the labs, it is important to have a portable drafting table that you can use from home. This particular table is about 18 by 24 inches in size, which is perfect for working on our drawings. It's also portable so that you're able to put it on a table or carry it with you. And it's a great tool because sometimes you're not able to get to a lab, or maybe the hours are not working with your schedule, and being able to have this portable drafting table at home will help you to get all your work completed. Our first assignment in this course will be lettering. And you may be saying to yourself, I've been, writing or lettering for the past 18 or so many years. But the reason why it is important for us to go over lettering is because lettering is a form of communication. And in our field, we need to be clear, we need to be consistent, we need to be concise. And our lettering is a reflection of that. So we'll be learning how to write clearly so that if we have to give someone a note or if you're lettering your drawings, it's very easy to understand. Because if anything gets misconstrued, it's time and it's money. So being clear and making sure that someone can read something that you wrote is critical in this field. So with that, we are going to be following some guidelines for our lettering. The first thing that you'll get used to is that we use uppercase only. And I will be drawing an alphabet for you, but these are some things that you always have to be checking yourself to make sure that you're not falling back on a habit that you're used to. So you just have to make sure you're always using uppercase letters. You're always going to use guidelines, okay? At first, one of your materials are graph paper. We're going to be using that graph paper to start working on our letters. And we can use those lines as our guidelines. But when you're on a piece of paper that does not have guidelines, you must draw them. And you can draw them with a 4H pencil so that they're nice and light. We usually don't want to see our guidelines, okay? The typical height for our letters is 1/8 inch high. They do vary, but that's the most common size that we're going to be creating for our letters. We create our letters using 6 basic strokes, okay? We're either straight down, we can be slanted or diagonal in the case of an N or an M, or it could be curved. We use curves for C's, in D's and P's, and then horizontal. Horizontals can be for an H, it could be for a Z on the top or the bottom, but these are our 6 basic strokes, and it is important to practice those first. Even just practicing these basic strokes will help you before you develop your alphabet. And we're not all going to have the exact same looking alphabet, but the important thing is that you're consistent. So every time you draw a letter A, it's always going to be the same letter A. You're not going to vary your style, okay? You want to be consistent, okay? So practicing the strokes you'll be doing on the graph paper. Another thing that you have to remember is you have to leave a space between your lines. Did you notice I skipped a line right here? If I go to start my alphabet, I'm going to start here, okay? I'm not going to put it in the space between my letters because then it is hard to read. If I put another letter in here, see how difficult it is to read? So I'm going to put an X going through that so you see if I put an A here, I have to skip a space and then I can put another A. It makes it easier to read. I'd like to start creating a alphabet for you, and this is something that you will be practicing on your own, but I just want you to understand how you have to think about this when you go to write your alphabet. Something that I do that is very, very helpful is counting the strokes. So for my A, I have 1, 2, 3 strokes. Now, you just have to develop whether or not when you create that A, okay, 1, 2, the horizontal line, are you going to keep it perfectly horizontal or do you give it a little angle? That could be a preferential style that you have, and that's something that you have to figure out on your own. For a B, vertical is 1 stroke, curve is 2, Another curve is 3. So when you're doing your B, you're 1, 2, 3. C is a curve and it's 1 stroke. D, 1, 2. E, 1, 2, 3, 4. F, 1, 2, 3. G, 1, 2, and 3. Some people like to make their G's a little more unique. You just have to be careful when you're writing your letters to make sure that they are as clear as possible. You don't want them to feel like a number, and you don't want them to feel like another letter. So you want to be as clear as possible. So I find with the G's, either just one line going across or putting that third line going down makes it a little bit easier to read. H, 1, 2, 3. Our I is a single line. You do not have to put the horizontal on the top and the bottom. It's just one vertical line. J, you can put that horizontal. K, 1, 2, 3. Our L, 1, 2. M's get tricky. You have to decide, am I going to do all longer lines, 1, 2, 3, and 4? Or if you decide, no, I'm going to keep the 2 in the middle short, 1, 2, 3, that's absolutely fine. The only thing is you must be consistent. Whatever you decide is going to be your letter M, all your letter M's will look like that. N, 1, 2, 3. O, you want to make sure you complete that circle. P, 1, 2. Q, complete the circle and a line going through it. R, 1, 2, 3. Our S can be one complete line, just using our curves. T, nice and easy, 1, 2. Our U, and you can decide if you wanted to be a little bit more curved or if you wanted to be more angular. Just be consistent. V, 1, 2. W is just like the M, only inverted. Are you going to keep longer lines for the W, or are you going to keep them short? Most important thing, just be consistent. X, Y, 1, 2, 3, and then our Z. You also have to practice your numbers. You want to make sure that they're clear. There are a few things that we're going to talk about. Zeros are just like our O's, so that's fine. 1, just a single line. You have to be careful. You cannot do ones with a little kind of cap on it. I'm going to cross that out, and that's because it could be taken for a 7. And when we're dealing with numbers and with ordering and things of that nature, if we mistake a 1 for a 7, again, time and money. So we have to be as clear as possible. 2, try not to do loops. Keep them nice and straight. A 3 can either be like this or like this. Our 4, okay, again, just decide, are you going to do a 4 like this or more triangular? It's fine, just be consistent. 5, 6, 7, we have to be careful with our 7. Some people like to put that other line going through there. Nope, we're not going to do a 7 like that. It's just going to be nice and easy to read. 8, a smaller circle above a larger circle, okay? And then our number 9. So you have to practice until you get it where you need it to be. And it, again, I think counting the strokes are extremely important. It is a bit rote, but once you get used to it, it'll become second nature to you. Again, I just want to repeat some important points, that lettering is a form of communication, so you need to be clear, you need to be concise, and you need to be consistent. Uppercase only, you notice I only did uppercase letters. You're always going to use guidelines. You have your graph paper, so you can work on graph paper for right now. But as we learn more about drafting, you'll be able to create your own guidelines using a 4H pencil, typically 1/8 inch high. We're going to practice our 6 basic strokes, okay? And you're going to always make sure that you leave a space between your writing. One last thing. Writing the alphabet is absolutely fine. You don't have to worry about spacing. But something that's good to practice is writing a sentence, so that this way you can practice spacing, because letter I's don't take up as much space as a W. So if you're writing the word ceiling, okay, we have a C, E, I, L, I. We have to be very careful. You don't want to use equal spacing, okay? You have to space it by I, so that you know an I takes up less space than a C or an E, okay? And I did give an example right here. If I do equal spacing, it starts to look a little funny. I'll do equal spacing here for you so you can see. If I space them equally apart, it's not going to look like a word. They're just going to look like individual letters. So you have to be careful with that, okay? So practicing sentences is a good idea. And now I just would like to review some of the key guidelines for your lettering. Remember to always use uppercase only. I know you're used to writing upper and lowercase letters, but for drafting and architectural purposes, only uppercase letters. Always use your guidelines. You're going to be doing your homework on the graph paper, which already has lines, and that's absolutely fine. But as we get further into the course, you're going to be using the different materials. I'll show you how to use everything, and you'll be creating your own guidelines using a 4H pencil. Typically, the letters are 1/8 inch high. Sometimes they're different, but that is a typical height. If you're unsure of what size you're going to be making the letters, making them 1/8 inch high will be absolutely fine. 6 basic strokes. Remember to practice those before you write the alphabet. It'll just get you used to doing vertical lines, diagonal lines, curved lines, horizontal lines. Practice those, and you can practice them for a little while. Leaving a space, either a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch between your lines. On your graph paper, it'll be a 1/4 of an inch, and that's absolutely fine. You just always have to leave a space. Remember, if you write on every single line, it will be hard to read, and everything is about being clear. Remember, our lettering is a form of communication. The 3 C's, we need to be clear, we need to be concise, and we need to be consistent. Again, our alphabet is here. You have to practice that. Remember to make sure for our tough letters, our G's, our M's, our W's, you have to be clear as to which one you're going to use and make sure that you are consistent with that. Last thing is making sure your spacing of your letters. You do that by eye, and writing sentences rather than just letters will give you practice in that. If you start to see that you're given even spacing, your letters will not look like a word. So you have to make sure that you understand some letters don't take up as much space. The I doesn't take up as much space as the W. As a reminder, in your textbook on page 75 and 76, there are guidelines for lettering. It gives you a few different styles, and that's one thing I want you to remember. You're going to use one style and be consistent. You have to give yourself time to figure out what that style is, but once you select it, just use one style and be consistent. Also, remember, when you're first starting out, you can use line paper, you can use graph paper. This is a good way to just practice your style and to get that developed. You can work in both pencil using an HB pencil, or you can use the felt tip marker. I do find using the felt tip marker first helps you to get your style a little bit more fluid. The pencil is a little harder to write with, but once you get your style down, then you can switch to the HB pencil and start practicing that. Just to give you an example of one area where we use our lettering is in finish schedules. It can be for a window or door schedule, it can be for a materials finish schedule, but this is an example of a schedule, and you will be doing several of those further on in the semester. Just a few things to remember. Using one style, being consistent, make your letters bold and distinctive. Practice spacing with words, not just letters. One thing to remember when you're working on your drawings, you do your lettering last to avoid smudges because we're using a softer pencil. Remember to use guidelines, 1/8 inch high typically, and to always use uppercase letters.